Hello, my name is Tim Trainor. I'm the editor of the Redmond Spokesman, the community weekly here in Redmond. I have about 15 years of experience as a reporter and editor, mostly in small town newspapers in Idaho, Montana, Eastern Oregon, and now here in Central Oregon. My partner Richard on the other side is talking about public information requests and all that like secret information, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the obvious stuff that happens in public in front of everyone, and you can just show up and hear everyone making important decisions. So we play off of each other a little bit. It'd be good to kind of get a mix of both things, because a lot of the public records requests you get to make or think to make are because of what you see open in public, in public meetings, from city councils to school boards to things that are very distinctly public to quasi-public meetings, development corporations that receive public dollars. There's a public safety council that meets here in Deschutes County. I think many counties do this. It's been a remarkable source of story ideas. It was just a group of of DAs, of sheriff's office employees that sort of just started meeting, and it quickly became what is legally known as a public meeting. And we can sit there and report on it, and people talk freely, and it's a wonderful source of story ideas. So it's just a reminder that public meetings, I think, are a little gauche at the moment, right? We don't often sit in 5 hours of city council anymore, but it's worth rethinking just kind of what we spend our time with, what we care about, and what we as journalists do to find stories. I guess I was thinking back, working with Catherine at the East Oregonian Pendleton. We, just a couple years ago, city council meeting starts at 7 p.m. We would turn that around, have 3 or 4 people working at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday night, send it and print that paper in the building in Pendleton. That was just 5 years ago. I mean, I don't think that's happening at many newspapers around the country anymore. It's how we report on, which used to be, just like daily work was sitting in a council meeting, telling people what they did and putting it in the paper. I don't think folks do that anymore, and for some good reason. A lot has changed. In Redmond, every single city council meeting is recorded, live streamed. It's over the air. Those meetings are archived. You can watch them at 1.5 speed the next day. They don't need a journalist writing down every single, this happened and this happened and this happened. It's not helpful. There's 4 or 5 people that sit through that 5-hour meeting, and those are probably the same 4 or 5 people that would get to the end of your story if you just, wrote down single thing that happened. So it's worth rethinking what we're doing. Just a couple years ago, I was going to almost all those meetings. I would say it's pretty rare that I would sit through an entire city council meeting, even though I'm covering the city. That's part of my beat. It doesn't mean that I don't watch a lot of those meetings the next morning. Like I said, on 2 times the speed, get through them quickly, and they're still a source of lots of ideas. So how do we kind of figure out how best to do that? Maybe before we get going, a quick raise of hands. Who has covered a public board as kind of a primary part of their beat? And who is, let's start with that. Okay. Who is like maybe never covered a public meeting? Okay, cool. Some folks in between. That's great. So I'd love for this to be an opportunity to share. If folks disagree or have their own ideas, please stop me and give me your kind of what you've learned out on the road. Yeah, go ahead.
I take umbrance with what you were saying a couple of minutes ago.
Okay.
If we're not in there, because, you can watch the videos the next day or the next week or whatever through the city's website, but who does that? Who is so bored with their life? But I would really like to know if Councilor so-and-so said, I'm absolutely against this thing, but it's good for the whole city.
Yeah.
The public wants to know, and if they can go to the front page, online or wherever, and see that, that's our job.
Yeah. How many meetings do you sit in a week, would you say?
He's there.
Okay.
He's there for every meeting.
Yeah.
Luckily, it only goes about 2 hours max.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's how that was the normal day, schedule of a daily community newspaper reporter. You sat in those.
Yes, I've been told. Oh, well, it'll be online at the city website.
Mhm.
But the average citizen doesn't do that. That's that silent
Yeah.
majority. But a lot of that silent majority, we hope, are looking at our news platforms.
Right. Yeah, I think that's totally valid. From my perspective, as we talked about Pendleton, there's just fewer resources in that newsroom. And in our newsroom here in Redmond, we're covering city government, we're covering school districts, we're covering million-dollar airports. We're covering very important things, and we don't have the people necessary to cover all those meetings. So we have to be a little bit more judicious about what we decide to cover, what we sit in. We sure as heck don't want anything to pass us by that's important, that people will care about. And so we're trying to figure out what we can get for public meetings. Yeah, exactly. And then still make a lot of content that people like. But yeah, that's a great perspective. Yeah, I talked a little bit about how things have changed. So I guess the first thing I'm saying is that I would love for journalists to have the freedom to rethink how they do it. I don't think you should be forced to sit, this is what I do, and I'm going to sit in every single county commission meeting, city council meeting, because I have to. I think there's obviously times when you want to do that, but there's plenty of other times where you can be more flexible with your time, you can be more productive as a journalist, and you can get the information you need to the public. One way I've been doing that, Hannah, our lovely intern here from the Snowden program, she's learning how to cover public meetings for the first time and getting to know folks. And a big part of what we're drilling in is sourcing. You should know everyone on your public board, right? You should know those folks. You should call them. You should chat with them. And a call before and after a meeting you can get 5 hours worth of stuff in 15 minutes, really. What do you think about this? This is a controversial thing. Last time you voted against it, now these changes have been made. What do you think? You may have that story pre-written, and as soon as that meeting's over, you've got it done, by a half hour of making sure the votes came in the way they did. We've really pushed sourcing more than sitting through long meetings, before and after, and chatty calls. I think that's a big part of it. Before Hannah, we had a reporter who's now gone to the Idaho Statesman in Boise. We started his kind of first job, and it was something he was really annoyed about, but I made him call 5 strangers before 9:30 every morning from his desk phone. And he called five people that he didn't have a story, he didn't need anything from. And he hated it at first, and after about 2 weeks, he had more stories than he knew what to do with. And I think and it started with, the city councilors themselves, and then all of a sudden became city staff, and all that web just kind of spread out pretty quickly. And it made it so he didn't have to sit in those long meetings. He knew kind of what people were thinking, what was in the works, what was, where people disagreed. And it made his work so much more interesting. It was ahead of city council meetings sometimes. And it saved us time. We were more efficient. We had more information in the newspaper. And it was something that you couldn't get, even if you did watch that 5-hour meeting. It was context and background and personality, the personality behind the people making those decisions. So I think that's something we're really pushing a lot. Hannah's doing a great job at getting her source network started. And it's the fun part of the job too. You get to meet with people and chat with them and get into their lives, get under their skin. Yeah, go ahead.
So when he called those 5 people, were there certain questions he was supposed to ask, or is he just developing?
Yeah, I mean, we mostly asked, how's it going, and what would you like the newspaper to be covering? What? I mean, we don't call that. They haven't gotten a call from journalists in many years, and we'd ask what's been going on in your world that you never got a call about, that you're surprised it never got in the paper. And yeah, go ahead, sorry.
So recently, we contacted one of our city council persons, and that counselor wouldn't talk to the paper because they said
their remarks and comments had been distorted in the past, which they weren't, but she said that, and therefore, she didn't have anything to say to the paper. And I'm just curious how other journalists here would deal with a situation like that, aside from being really annoyed.
Yeah. Does anybody have something? Go ahead.
I would say,
Yeah.
I contacted this counselor, this is what she told me.
Yeah.
We have no, there's no record of us distorting
Mhm.
our views, but this is why she won't talk to us.
Yeah.
Have we done that? We've done
Words to that effect.
Yeah.
When there's no comment, we put
Yeah.
in
No, but it wasn't no comment.
I didn't put that.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I would need to have the exact
Yeah.
quote.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that may be one opportunity where what that person says in a public meeting on the record in front of the like you use that like and there's no distorting that information. You know.
She did this on Facebook.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I mean, I guess I would.
On Facebook, it's gotta be true.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I would use the parameters of a public meeting to your benefit. That was said in public. It's on the record. Here's the video of it. Here's what we have. And if they don't answer your calls, that's fine. But I think getting in front of people and explaining what they're up to and hearing what their perspectives can help diffuse some of those. But some are lost causes for sure. And that's that's a person that gumshoe journalism might not work with. And so you use the public nature of a public meeting to get what you want from them. Get their perspective, write their vote down, how they voted on this thing, and you got something from them at least. No, that's a good piece as well. Okay. Yeah, and I just, as we mentioned, as I've, sort of mentioned, maybe not sitting through every public meeting, but I feel like I'm discounting some of the value that can be in there a little bit. All the people who are making decisions are in one room. They're talking to each other. They're debating the issues. They're having their votes written down and in the public record. And sometimes it's all you want from a story is to get the two people who disagree talking to each other across the room. And instead of hunting them down of 5 hours of interview, like interviewing them both at separate times, getting a blah, 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 it's all could be right there in a public meeting. The conflict, the resolution, the disagreements, and, I don't want to, if you get those moments, it can all be there, and then it's really efficient to go to that meeting once. And sorry.
Yes, when I jumped in earlier, you guys have a news desk, you have to cover a lot of areas. We have city council and, very small government, so it's pretty easy for us.
Yeah.
And it tends, at this time of, this year, last couple of years, we've had to focus on city council meetings, and it's been pretty contentious.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of personal agendas.
Yeah.
We'd love to cover the school board. We'd love to cover a couple of the other operations and organizations going in town. But I guess me as the editor, I've said we need to stay on top of city council.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And,
Like I said, you have
Yeah.
there's a lot of things we only have 2 hours, so luckily it works
Right.
for us. But,
Yeah.
so I apologize.
Yeah, no,
That
that makes a ton of sense, and your communities for sure, and sometimes that's where the action is, and sometimes it's not, but reporters still feel like they have to be there, and if that's the case, right?
At this point in time.
Yeah, go ahead, Luis.
Tim, let's take a step back. Earlier, you mentioned the legal description of a
Yeah.
public meeting. What exactly is
Oh man, great question, Louise. It's so simple. It's very easy. In Oregon, a public meeting involves any government entity where attendees have the authority to make decisions or recommendations to a public body, and a quorum is required to make those decisions. One line. I mean, it's super helpful. There's 429 pages of things where they carve out little pieces of it. But if you're at a thing and you think it's a public meeting, that's pretty powerful to be like, hey, there's two county commissioners here. This is a public meeting. What's being said here? Either they shouldn't be doing that, or what's happening there is public. So you can use that to your advantage. That's happening, I think, a lot more is that groups of people are making decisions in public, and they should know that those are technically public meetings, and if we want to be there, we should demand to. Yeah, sorry.
I have an ethical question. So I
Yeah.
just started a newspaper in October. I live in a tiny little town, 420 people. There's a city council.
Mm-hmm.
People are pushing me to run for city council. Is that, I mean, I go to all the meetings anyway.
Yeah.
You know,
Can't do it.
can't do it?
Yeah.
Conflict of interest.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's what my first thought was, and then I thought, I don't know, why? Why is it a conflict of interest?
I was lucky, I got kicked off planning commission a couple of times. Just in time for my editor, original editor, said, you know, you really can't be involved in government if you're gonna be on the paper. No problem, they kicked me off, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. Even if you have the highest ethical thoughts about your coverage, you're giving people a chance. You're giving people a chance to dig at you, and I would stay above it.
They've already got it.
I know, but you don't give them the easy stuff. Your job is you're separate from the council, and you're reporting unbiased about it. So I think you're better off that way. Or you can just run for council and close. Change and have a. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's more fun for sure. One other thing we mentioned, like really heavily sourcing before and after meetings. We're also using agendas in a much more journalistic way, I think, to be more efficient. I'm on probably. I was talking to Emily. She says she's get 30 agendas a week. Is that or so? I'm about the same. Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of them now have supporting documents attached to them, city staff reports. I mean, there's amazing stuff there that is really useful. If you can read 30 agendas and find the two things that you want to go to, that's another efficient use of time. So I would get on, a lot of those are automated email lists. Get on every single one. Get on the plan. Even if you rarely go to those meetings, get on the planning department. Get on the, I'm on the City of Sisters. Cities that I don't cover all the time, but you see stuff pop up, and there are a ton of story ideas there, and a ton of documentation of facts, and you just have no idea what's going to come. And once you get in the habit of looking for them, seeing what's normal, you can then see what's abnormal. You see this thing that they discussed last month, and now it's totally different, and it's on the agenda again, and maybe there's a story idea there. So I would just get on the habit of getting on as many lists to get agendas, and the city owns the airport here, so that's always a super interesting one. All of a sudden you see agenda items come out with lots of zeros on the thing, and you think, okay, there's a story. That might not be a 7-hour meeting to sit through, but that's a lot of zeros, and people would probably wonder what's going on there. So that's just a super easy thing. Sign up for as many as you can, open them, and look through them. Don't let them just die in your email. Get on those lists and look at them closely, and get in the habit of it, because then you'll notice when something's unique or different. Often it has, it has, city staff reports are incredible, and you might have to make 12 phone calls to see what's right in that city staff report with a great factual detail that you need. So that's just a super easy thing to do. Go through one more. The other piece that I think I've mentioned this before is that even if you don't go to a meeting, a lot of them are archived now. You can watch them at 1.5, 2.0 speed the next morning while you're digging through all those emails. It's twice as fast, twice as easy. As you're making those phone calls to city councilors, it gives you a chance to see how truthful they are to what they're telling you. I am very, very much in the habit. Redmond City Council meets Tuesday night. Sometimes I have it on while I'm cooking dinner or whatever, but the next morning, I try to rip through the rest of it as you're doing what you have to do when you get to the office for the first hour of catching up and making sure nothing's on fire and all that. I'm catching up on what happened last night. And, at the end of that, I likely will call the city manager or someone and say, hey, this, there was some disagreement here. Where did that come from? How's that work out? Blah, blah, blah. So watch what's out there and watch it more efficiently when it fits your schedule and allows you to do other work at the same time. Another easy thing that is to learn Oregon public meeting law. As I mentioned, that's just one paragraph, 2 lines about what defines a public meeting. There's manuals that are hundreds and hundreds of pages, but you don't need all that. It's very simple to know. You can start and stay simple about what is a public meeting, that you can be there, and what rules they must follow in order to follow the law. So spend an hour someday when no one's calling you back to read the Oregon Public Meetings Manual. It's very readable. It was kind of refreshed in 2017, 2019 with some of the folks of U of O and other folks who are involved in that. It's as transparent as we'd hope it to be, and it can be effective when someone disagrees with you. Yeah.
I have a quick question. I bet
Yeah.
there are people who work at publications in this room who wouldn't know what the remedy was if someone is breaking sunshine laws.
Mhm.
Because I bet there are a lot of small newspapers in the state that don't have a full-time lawyer on staff.
Yeah.
And explain sunshine law.
Okay. Yeah. Does anybody have? I wonder if Emily, have you had that?
Oh,
Yeah.
but I did have some feedback on that question, and particularly, oftentimes, I would love for you to talk about the law, but
Mhm.
as many of you probably know, and by the way, my name's Emily, I work at OPB, and this discussion made me think about crashing a public meeting
Mhm.
of a bunch of county commissioners that wasn't noticed, and it was during the pandemic, they were plotting to overthrow state restrictions, and how they could do that while minimizing legal risk. But rolling up to this meeting that I got wind of at the last minute and saying, this is against the law, was probably going to make the situation more adversarial.
Mhm.
So in this particular case, I called another local reporter to meet me there so that it wasn't just Emily, it was
Mhm.
like the media. And then also, just generally, given less combative situations than that, I find appealing to people's motivations is often more effective with access than, and this is now that OPB does have a very, a lawyer who's quite fierce about sunshine laws, and so that it helps to have that threat in my back pocket. I love to CC legal as like my little power move, and so like legal doesn't care, but it's just like just CCing our legal team so they know what's going on. I do that move a lot just to like, and you could just create a legal at Highway 58.
Yeah.
And then I try to persuade people, like in the case of that potentially illegal public meeting, I was like, you know what, you guys are here, you want the governor to hear you, I'm here to amplify your voices. We can do this the hard way or we can do it the easy way, and I can get your message out there. It's up to you. Like kind of appealing more flies with honey than vinegar. Like appealing to people's reason to me has often worked better. And then once they do reach a point where if they continue to stonewall you, your document trail makes you look like the nicest, most reasonable person in the world, and they've been jerks from the beginning. And if a DA or a judge does end up reviewing the case, you look pretty good, and
Yeah.
they look like obstructionists.
Yeah, and the other piece of that is what you want. You want to be part of that meeting. Like there's lots of things as that came together in a weird way, probably illegal, but you're here where things are happening. Not all journalists are there. There's something happening here. I want to be part of this meeting. You tell them, hey, this is a public meeting. Here's and hopefully they can just let you stay, and you can do your reporting.
Probably true that a lot of public officials don't know the
Right.
law either.
Right.
So sometimes it's a matter of just having that discussion.
Yeah.
I think badass legal ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Do you have something? Go ahead.
Yeah, speaking of public meetings, sometimes they're executive sessions.
Yeah.
In between, any tips on that?
Right. Yeah. Oregon has a really wonderful executive session law for journalists. It's pretty rare, I think, for states in the union. We are legally allowed to sit in every executive session. And go ahead, sir. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Refresh me.
Yeah.
In executive session, can your reporter take notes or record?
No,
Neither.
neither.
Okay.
And you cannot report directly what happens in an executive session. So, like in the very beginning, you should demand to be in an executive session if it's happening in front of you. I'm a journalist. I'm coming with you guys if you go into another room or whatever. So whenever, even if it seems boring, even if it seems something you're uninterested in, just go, and it will be a useful opportunity. And it's invaluable. and obviously you're not going to take notes, you're not going to record, you're not going to report directly on what happened. But if they, let's say they fire someone in executive session, they talk through all the legals, can we do this, blah, blah, blah. You can leave that meeting, and if Richard could talk to you after this, he's doing public records requests. Just make a request for that person's personnel document, personnel file, the next day. And so what you learned in that public meeting or in that executive session informed a records request that will allow you to get the story. There are more complicated executive session laws where you can fight, like you will need legal in there. But from my perspective, if there's an executive session, you should demand to be part of it, and you should use that to inform your reporting. Yeah, interesting. Sorry.
Just wanted to
Yeah.
remind, I'm sure many folks in the room already know this, but obviously there's also resources that you can point to.
Yeah.
Whenever there is legal issues, like SBJ has their own legal fund. There's also the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press. So
Yep.
just, you're not alone, especially for like a smaller organization. But yeah,
Yep.
definitely there's resources out there for it.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Yep. Yeah. Go ahead.
Sunshine Law?
Yeah, sunshine law.
Okay. So in 2017, I think, Oregon created a Sunshine Committee that was after decades of, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. We demand sunshine, and then everyone moved to Redmond, and all was solved. There have just been carve-outs for a long time about what is, by legislators and lobbyists about what is public information. So, I think from 2017 to 2019, and maybe like there was stuff in both years, we tried to simplify and make transparent the public access laws in Oregon. It's still a constant fight. There's bills in every legislative session. I'm part of Open Oregon, which is, I'm not sure if anyone's involved in that. It's some journalists and legal folks from Oregon who kind of get together, just kind of keep an eye on bills in the legislative session that try to, make carve-outs to our sunshine laws, transparency laws. It's very complicated. It's thousands of pages, and it's getting added to and subtracted from every session.
Does it mean basically that in a public meeting, the press is allowed to be there? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it defines what a public meeting is, and it defines that a public meeting is good governance. And Oregon, everything from the state agencies to city councils to, your local, anything. That's how they should operate. And if you say you're not operating like this, it gives you better standing. Go ahead, sir.
One of the important things to remember is that if the sunshine laws really are for the public,
Mm-hmm.
it says anyone can go in. And what's really important to remember about that is that they cannot put restrictions on you as someone from the press that they
Right.
do not put on everyone else in
Yep.
the public. You are a member of the public.
Yep.
So you can assert rights on top of what you would have as a citizen of your city or
Mm-hmm.
county or state or nation. But they can't. Political campaigns try to do this all the time. You have to go stand in that corner
Mm-hmm.
if you're with the press, and you say, "Oh, I can go anywhere I want."
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a member of the public. No, if you have a camera,
Yeah.
you have to stand over there. No.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's important to remember
Yep.
about the sunshine laws is that journalists are the ones who notice them the most, but they're for all of us,
Mm-hmm.
whether we're journalists or not.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And you're legally
Yeah.
allowed to record and photograph as long as you don't disrupt the meeting. I got taken
Yeah.
for a ride a few times, really.
Yes.
In Courier, of people being like, trying to negotiate with me over whether or not I could record a public meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And, feeling like I prevailed in convincing them, and then I looked at the law and I was like, wait a second. As long as you don't disrupt the work, you're fine.
Yeah, go ahead,
So
sir.
the issue came up a year or two ago about whether we could or would not be allowed to attend executive session.
Mm-hmm.
And the council said, you can't come to the executive session. Of course you cannot. Well, we contacted the U of O Law School,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not suggesting that anybody use the law school instead of your own attorney, but the law school has second and third year law students who love to do projects and get paid $10, $15, $20 an hour to do the research. And so that's what we did. We hired a law student to research the question of whether we could attend the executive session. So we had all of the legal documentation, I guess you would say, and it didn't cost us very much.
Mm-hmm.
And contact with the law school through this law student who was not giving legal advice, but just doing a research memorandum on this particular issue for us, and we attend executive sessions.
Wow.
No problem.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, if you have a legal issue and you don't have the resources for your own legal department, the U of O is a great resource. You contact them and get a second or third year law student to do a research memorandum for you on your particular question.
Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Isn't there an Oregon statute that says that? Because the city meetings I've been to and the county.
You're talking about executive sessions specifically?
Executive
Yeah.
sessions,
Yeah.
they always read that,
Mhm.
and then they escort those who are
Mhm.
not eligible out the door. But they read that statute every time.
Yeah, it's a state
So all
statute.
you have to do is get that statute, you
Mhm.
wouldn't have to hire a lawyer.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it says right there.
Yep. Yep.
Media
There's.
is allowed to stay.
Yep. Yeah. Hopefully that works. But like as you mentioned, sometimes it doesn't, and you need. I mean, it seems pretty clear to me, but to some other folks, it isn't. Can you talk about how executive sessions have informed your reporting? How you use it? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of folks who have not sat in on one.
Well, we don't report
Right.
on the executive session, but we keep them honest and we go.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think-
Yeah.
I don't
Just being in the room is something.
we ever not go to an executive session. We always try to go.
We've missed a couple just
Mhm.
for staffing reasons, but
But also,
like, as you say, the most important thing is you're keeping them honest.
Mhm.
If you get a bunch of colluders in an executive session, and on top of all, if they should go off topic,
Right.
you can report everything they said.
Right, exactly. And I think that's one of the benefits to being in the executive session. You have to state very clearly why you're going into executive sessions. It's for this legal ruling. It's for this discussion on this thing that is, secret for some reason. So you go back there. It starts on that for a couple minutes, and all of a sudden it's veering off. And I've definitely stood up and said, "This is not what we're in executive session about. Either you guys are getting back on topic, or here comes my recorder." So you can give them and sometimes that just gets them back on track. They do what they need to do, and then we come out in the public, and then we have this more public conversation. So don't be afraid to say, "Hey, there's a very specific reason why we're in here." And you're not in that zone anymore. You've gone in other directions, and I'm going to give you a second to get back on track, or this is a public meeting again, and we're reporting on it. Go ahead.
well, it also gives you an opportunity to be informed. For
Yeah.
example, one of the executive sessions I sat in on, the council was discussing in private the compensation for the city administrator. And some of the counselors were over the top.
Yep.
And so I didn't report that, of course, but now I'm informed to
Mhm.
know that some of our counselors are, what's the word?
Very preferential.
Preferential.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
With respect to how they
Right.
compensate the city administrator.
Good
That's
buddy system.
good for us to know.
Yeah, totally. And you can have a reporting. You can start from scratch on reporting by knowing that, and have that story out. You call them all. You have those, and then you use public data to say, okay, a city administrator of this size town makes this much around the state. You talk to someone who disagrees with their, and then you've got a story right there. You learned up all about it in executive session, but you're not using anything you heard or there.
So you
Sorry.
would have to, because they were on subject, and it was just in the stratosphere
Mhm.
on the discussion, but they stayed on subject. If we were to interview and get somebody, one of the counselors, after that meeting.
Yeah.
To discuss that and say, oh, well, they were really over the top.
Right.
We can report.
Well, yeah, so they'll come out of that meeting, go into a public session and say, we have a 5% raise for the city administrator. That has to, anything that they vote on has to be in public. So then your reporting is about a raise for the city administrator. You're going to call folks who disagree with that, and you're going to call folks who say, oh yeah, he's worth it. He should be worth 10 times that amount, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, you can report, what happened behind those closed doors gives you the ideas for the questions and tells you who you need to talk to and tells you who doesn't see eye to eye.
So
And
you're
that,
looking for a leaking source.
yeah. Well, I mean, you give them the chance to say how they feel, and they know you know how they feel, so they're less likely to lie to you because you were there. You're giving them the. So I think just being there, spending the time in executive session has made you more informed. They know you're informed, and they want to explain themselves. So I think that gives you a better opportunity to get an honest answer. Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't remember any in the short term. Does anybody have any knowledge of that? Yeah, go ahead, sir.
The Oregon Ethics Committee
Yeah.
does have, Gary, I'll
Yeah.
let you
Yeah.
explain how that's worked so far. Go ahead,
Thanks,
we're
George.
all friends.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure that I
Yeah.
can, but I do know there is a financial
Right.
penalty for violation, and I
Yeah.
think it's $1,000.
I think so, too.
Up to, but I don't think it gets imposed very
As I
often,
said.
very easily.
Yeah. I can't remember that happening.
Ever, but I think it's there.
That's true. There is now a state public records advocate. You should chat with him. He's very helpful. I'll send that information to folks after this in case you need to talk with him. He's really useful and is a person you could probably say, hey, I'm not having luck with this body. Can you explain to them, what the laws are? And so he's not even advocating for you. He's going straight to them and saying, here's the rules that journalists have to play by, and here's the rules that you have to play by. So I've used him a couple of times to just explain to folks the law, and then you don't have to go down, hopefully, that path of sue and all the troubles that can bring. But it's in general, I think that's what I'd hope to leave you with, is that don't feel burdened by attending every single meeting that is on your agenda. You'll never do anything else, but you can find valuable things, and it can be efficient use of your time if you get everyone in the same room talking to each other and making difficult decisions. Go ahead.
I read the state law on what constitutes journalism or
Yep.
press, and there's no such thing as credentials.
Yeah.
As I understand. Okay, so my U of O student goes into an executive session. They don't know him,
Mm-hmm.
and he says, "Well, I'm with the Highway 58 Herald." Does he have to have a piece of? They've asked for paper from us. Well, who's who with the Herald? Does he have to do that? Because he, as you say, was he also representing the public? So in executive session, does he have to
Yeah.
prove that he's with? I don't know what that.
The state does not want to define what a journalist is. And really, SPJ doesn't want to define what a journalist is, because it's a slippery slope. If you have to say that you are published in a print newspaper, that's becoming less common. If you have to have paid subscribers to your thing, that's becoming less. It's a very complicated thing. People with blogs, are they journalists?
I suggest that you find a shop that laminates them.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
And you make a little
Yeah.
stick says Highway 58.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
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 Press.
Yeah.
And then a name. And
Yeah.
I made many of those for
Yeah.
reporters at the Eastern Union over
Yeah.
the years, just with my rudimentary graphic
Mhm.
design skills. Yeah. And didn't even have to laminate them, really.
Yeah.
Just put them on because different people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a very sticky spot, because I think that's come before SBJ before, of like, do we define who is a journalist? And they're not super interested in that either, because it's difficult to do, and the members of the public are not allowed in an executive session. There has to be something about you that separates you. It's a hard one. I try not to carry press passes as little as possible, because I think it causes more harm than good sometimes. But go ahead, Andrew.
So there is a program that, speaking of along
Yeah.
these lines, there's a program that was first developed by an organization, a civic media organization in Chicago called City Bureau, and they launched a program called Documenters, and now it's like 18 cities wide or
Yeah.
towns wide across the country. But it really is this program where sit in and document public meetings.
Yep.
Like, just going back to U of O students, right, or law school students, something along those same lines. I don't know if they'll, every community is gonna have different kinds of fits, but it is an interesting model to look into called, again, City Bureau Documenters.
Yeah.
Documenters Network.
There's also a new org called Earn Your Press Pass. I don't know if anyone has used that. It's super easy. Yeah, through Forge. It's very simple explanations of what journalists do, our ethical obligations, how we work, and at the end you get a little press pass. And and if that's what gets you into a meeting that does, then it's worthwhile. Yeah, I mean, those are super easy things. And for folks who don't have journalism background, journalism training, they get you caught up on the basics really quickly.
I'll add one,
Yeah.
sorry, I'll add one
That's-
more thing about the Documenter
Yeah.
program, is that part of the program is also to upload all of these meetings up into a centralized, accessible database.
Cool.
So that it's all common, so that everybody has access to all the multiple meetings that you have in
Yeah.
the area.
Very cool.
What's that organization called?
City Bureau
City Bureau.
in Chicago.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna mention another cool trick. I don't know who uses Document Cloud in here, but there's some interesting AI tools you can use to save your precious life force and still analyze what's going on in public meetings, from like having an automated tool scrape all of the PDFs off of a city website, for instance, and then search them by word, and then you can even have it send you a notification if a certain word appears. Or you could dump all the meeting minutes into AI and look for patterns of like what are the priorities or what issues are burning or coming up. And it's called Document Cloud. It's part of a group called Muck Rock, which I would recommend. It's like very accessible AI for journalists, especially journalists doing accountability stories where you might have to deal with a ton of documents or otherwise kind of like soul-numbingly boring materials, and get machines to sift, like embrace AI as a way to take back more of your time.
Perfect. Yeah, sure. I'll get her first and then you. Go ahead.
Oh, I just had a comment. We have been short-staffed, like many newspapers, for a long time now, and we reached out to a freelancer outside of the area to cover city and county for us. They are a veteran journalist, well-trained. They're doing a great job. But I find a lot of pushback from the local community commissioners and such that they're not local. They don't know what they're talking about. You're not understanding what because you don't know the history. So there's been a lot of pushback on that because they do ask the questions. And so it made me think of it when you brought up the earn your press badge and things like that. Like, I think that is where we have to go in the future for us to survive as newspapers, but it is a challenge, I think, because our communities have been so spoiled with feet on the ground and the, I hate to say it, but yes, the good old boy system of, you're not one of us. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's not really a question, maybe more of a comment, but I don't know if anyone else has come across something similar. So.
Any feedback on that?
Actually, we're kind of just the opposite. We discussed it amongst the board of directors, and we like the idea of bringing some students from the University of Oregon, other outside reporters, because it gives us more credibility. It's not the old gang here at the newspaper. We know everybody, and they know us. Well, it's just a Highway 58. That's a rag. You start bringing in people who have credentials, who are legitimate reporters. That, to me, kind of raises you up a little bit. But I understand where you're coming, because they're going to push back no matter who you bring in.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, they're not going to the meeting, they're listening to it, but they could still, so they're not in the area. So that is where it's more and more difficult, I think.
Yeah, you miss a lot. You miss a lot of the nuances. But then again, maybe that makes you more objective.
Right.
In
I
some
mean,
instances.
yeah. Just a little piece of that is that we're in Redmond here, just outside of Bend. There's the Bend Bulletin there. We've kind of restarted the Redmond Spokesman, and people appreciate having folks from their community write about their community. I mean, we get a lot of just people knocking on the doors and saying that, I think people appreciate having local journalists who are just part of their community because they do feel a bit more invested in it. I mean, obviously having someone from outside the area is better than no one, but I think people like having folks they can see in a grocery store or talk to after or stop in and bug them and get to know them. Yeah. Torsten, sorry.
Well, I'm just kind of thinking of takeaways. It's interesting that we started talking about meetings and the efficiency of meetings, and we got into very fundamental things about what's happening in journalism. And one of them that I wanted to highlight what Andrew was saying about it, that, and this has always been true in rural journalism, even when newspapers are making money and all that's what's happening, you can't get a feeling that you're very much alone, and that all you get is pushback from the community. Most of your community loves what you're doing. But it's just like when I drive from Eugene to Portland, I don't notice all the drivers who are doing exactly what they're supposed to do. It's the one guy who cuts me off, like that. So be careful of that. And also, go back to several of the things that Andrew pointed out, is that you're not alone. There are national organizations to reach out to who SPJ is the most obvious, I think, but there are many others who want to provide support and use them, and use the university. I mean, we're here, we're journalists, we're committed, and we often, how do I say this? I mean, Andrew's much more savvy than I am. We are an institution with a certain amount of bureaucracy, but we, am I saying that? I'm old enough that I can afford to lose my job. Let's keep talking. But there are ways to make connections. And in an earlier session, there was a little discussion about extension, and there are resources out there that help, and I think that's important. And that's part of our job as a university, is to figure out how to make those.
And also think about Highway 58. I mean, I know you guys are part of the INN, right? And nonprofit news. I mean, they have great services. They also have the rural news network. So there's ways to distribute your content across. So, I mean, again, yes, you're not alone, but collaboration, whether it's regional hubs or statewide hubs, which I know Forge has really been trying to really push this idea of civic hubs across neighborhoods and across regions. I think those are the collaboration nature of, you were saying earlier, that's how we're going to survive. We're sticking with each other.
Totally. Sounds great. Anything else? We're right up against time, but I have one more question if anybody has anything, or we can. Yes, go ahead, Catherine.
I just want to mention,
Yeah.
this might have been right before you came to the East Oregonian, but this was back now, 15 years ago. Hermiston, those city council meetings, back in those days, this is Neil Welk, who became.
Yeah, that was before me, just
your time
before.
So in Hermiston, which was smaller than it is now, but a growing community, they would have city council meetings that literally would last 10 minutes. It would be unanimous votes on every topic. And this went on for years. And finally, we hired an editor, Neil Welk, who was like, what is up with this? And he realized that there were the mayor and city councilors, it was all older white guys.
Yep.
And no offense
Yeah.
to anybody.
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the room, but
Yeah.
but yeah, it was the good old boys. They
Yep.
they would
Yep.
have little private
Yep.
little meetings over coffee or beer or
Yep.
whatever, and then have a public meeting-ish,
Yep.
and then off you go. And he really held their feet to the fire, and they were so angry at him, but the community was so appreciative.
Yep.
And now they have now fast forward 15 years, very diverse city council. Someone who was trans actually ran for
Yeah.
city council recently. There are women on the city council, young people, Hispanics. It really reflects the city much more than it used to. And so if you are seeing that in any of the communities that you cover, it's like, wow, that was a really short meeting, and like, wow, everyone always agrees. Dig in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great one. Perfect. Yeah, if they're 10 minutes or 5 hours, you got problems. You got to get into both. you got to go to both of them. Cool. Well, thanks, folks. It's lunch, so I'm going to get you guys out, and hope you stick around. Thank you.